we get cold, just no moisture. All right, Ryan asked me to speak on some of the stuff we're doing on the farm. Our Underhill farm is our potato farm, and our grain farm is Overhill Farm. We farm 2,700 acres of processing spuds and about 10,000 acres of grain and special crops. Farm consists of myself, my father, his brother, and his boy. The 4 of us run it. We have around 20 employees full-time and 20 part-time in seasons. We grow a lot of off-field that goes straight in the factory in August and September. So like the storage we're filling right now, it's dirty now because we fill this storage probably 6 or 7 times. We'll fill it all just to make better use of our staff. And we're digging direct if we want 30 or 40 loads for the day. We can dig and we can be done before lunch. Guys can go home or we can go to the combine, we can do other stuff. We're not tying up a whole crew to stand there and load trucks. We did it for years where we'd stand there, 20 people loading trucks until 2 in the morning. About 5 years ago, we started planting in stubble. It's not zero-till. You can see it's been deep ripped in the fall. We run an inline ripper. It just breaks the hard pan for us. Loosens the whole field up nicely, but doesn't disturb the stubble, so we don't have any erosion for the winter. These fields will get broadcast. We put potash on the fall and K-Mag if we're using any on the field. And then the nitrogen sulfur will be broadcast right before the planter, and then the phosphate gets banded with the planter.
What crop is that? Previous crop?
That is a canola stubble. Question comes up every time we use canola stubble, wheat stubble, barley, oats, pretty much anything except beans. Beans don't work.
Okay.
They plow and they push and they ball up on us. They just don't flow through the machine rigs.
And is it fairly heavy clay there?
No, it's not.
Okay. Very sandy.
Very sandy.
Okay. Similar to what we have here for.
Yeah, it's a 1% organic matter soil.
Okay.
Like 5 to 7 pH across the farm. We do have a few heavy fields, and we're in the head fields. We don't do this.
Sure. Yeah.
We've tried and we don't. Different view of the planter. So this is, like you said, we make one pass. That's it. The sprayers will come in once or twice, and then airplanes take over. So that's the last time a tire goes in the field till harvest. Definitely helps with harvestability. We haven't got routes, we haven't got. You guys don't have the option for planes. I understand some of it saves some fuel. That's not our main concern. Our main concern is save the soil. We plant in cold soils generally. We're pushing our envelope both ends at home. So we'll go in there 45, 43 degrees sometimes and plant super high seed. We know we shouldn't, but it works for us. But leaving that bit of stuff standing in that hill is enough to keep that field from sifting on us. If we're sitting there for 5 weeks with black dirt, and we get a lot of wind, it's constantly out of the west for us. And you could have times where those hills will be right flat before the plants come up. And if we were a full tillage field, there's a good chance there's spots of field are like that. Where this, they don't move. They just kind of sit there. And so the only time we'd ever go back and re-hill now is if a Dakota field cover up the green. And just because they set high and then you got to put the dirt back around them. We've tried planting them deeper, it doesn't matter, they still set high. And we're planting, we have a very shallow soil profile, so we'll plant, our shoes are probably on the ground 2 inches. We're just splitting the soil, if there's a V for the seed to fall into, and then the hillers behind are taking the soil and building a hill around it. So we end up with about a 5-inch seed depth when we're done.
Do you have a tooth in front of your shoe?
Yes, we do. Okay. Yeah, sorry, the picture's not good enough to see it, but there is a coil of tine, a heavy one in front of there with a 2-inch ripper shank on it. And we need that to push the stuff away from the shoe. If we don't run that, the stuff will push in front of the shoe and plow. And it doesn't make a nice trench for the seed to fall into. Same thing, we run 2 12-row planters. 27 acres. We'd like to plant in 7 to 10 days. That's our goal. We want to be done as soon as possible. one thing, we have one seed shed, and we want to warm all the seed at once, we want to plant it all at once, if we can, or as close as possible. That's great.
Right.
So I,
Got any questions of the planters? How we're going to install?
They don't pile up though?
No. I said beans they did.
Yeah. Have you planted in corn stubble?
Yes, I have.
And it works?
As long as the trash is prepped properly. Like, we used to run chopping heads, and we actually went away from chopping heads. We want to heads with rollers that cut and crush the stalks. And we have to, at harvest, we have to run our headers low to the ground. Not like you would in a regular field. If we're going to potato field, we'll drop the headers to the ground. So we crush that whole stalk and then we run stompers behind. And the stompers pull that crown out of the ground and break the root ball up. So it slows down harvest when we do a potato field for next year, but if we harvest like we normally would, no, it wouldn't work. It'd be too much trash. Once we break that stalk up right top to bottom, it disintegrates pretty fast. So there's the field, that same field at emergence. You still see the stubble standing in the rows. And the other side of this pivot, I should have had a picture of it. It wasn't done this way, it was done for a trial. And yeah, the tops are rounded off, glazed almost, and there's a powder in the bottom of the hills.
That probably helps with the cracking of the top.
It helps with,
too,
yeah. And helps with, for us, we get black dot in our stems if we have blowing dirt in the spring. It just cuts the stems, it makes them, it actually cuts stems off if you're not. And we have a lot of reduced black dot on the fields that are done this way. So one less fungicide for that, hopefully. But it also, it's really a good selling point to our neighbors. Our fields aren't blowing. And our farm, everything around us is zero till. If it's not a potato farm, it's zero till. It has been for 25 years. Once the technology came out, it was adopted in our areas. We're in a dry, sandy area. And the rest of our farm where there's no potatoes, it doesn't get worked. It gets left. Some spots have been stubble probably for 30 years.
So not all your land goes into potatoes and
No.
irrigation?
No, in our area, if you don't have water, you don't grow potatoes. So the land we don't have water on doesn't grow potatoes. It's grow half a crop for us with the waters. Same thing, soil erosion, big part in our farm. Our beans and corn will get strip tilled. Not that general, we have an air cart on our tillage tool. It's just a stripper, it's a 12-row machine. It opens up the band. We lay the fertilizer in at 3 different levels. We'll put our heavy nitrogen down a little lower, our starter phosphorus at the top, and then our main blend in the middle. And then planters come in, RTK and everything. The strip till has a passive guidance on the back. I don't know if you guys have used passive guidance at all instead of active. It, because the air cart's in the middle and the tillage tool's at the back, there's a bubble on the back on the machine, and there's a talks to the tractor, and it'll move the tractor over enough to make sure that tillage piece is in the right spot in the back. So it's not as, I think it's as accurate as our active steering on our planters is. It seems to, the tractor can correct good enough, and then when the planters come through, they have the same guidance on them, and they'll plant 2 inches off of that band. So they're still planting in black dirt, but not over top of the fertilizer. And it's surprisingly accurate. But it lets us grow long season corn, long season beans on stubble fields basically that have a 8-inch strip of black dirt for every row. And it's great for weed suppression. I don't know what here, but in our stubble, like we'll grow sunflowers on ground like this. We won't work the sunflower ground, we'll just plant straight into it. But lots of times we'll get away without spraying a field. Just there's enough control. That's typical canola wheat rotation that we have. Same thing, do everything we can to save some money when it makes sense. If we use our corn planters for planting our canola, we can cut our seed in half or less than, probably a third. And you know, 40, 50 bucks an acre on a low margin crop makes a big difference. Sometimes it's the difference in making money or not.
That fall rise, crop you harvested, or is that?
Yeah, it is, it's harvested crop, yeah. Yeah, we have a decent market for fall rye in our area. Most of it goes to distilleries. Do you guys like whiskey? But yeah, if we can buy a piece of machinery, we know we can pay for it over time with the savings that it's gonna make or the extra yield it's gonna push in. As farmers, we look long term more than other businesses probably, but if a piece of machinery like that can pay for itself for a couple of years, it's a good investment for us. Yeah, zero till when it looks ugly. You should never go back to the field till it's up. You drive yourself crazy. Go check that field every day for 2 weeks and be very frustrated, and then come back a week later and it looks good. It's good to send scouts to those fields, not yourself. Just shot of our main grain yard. Since we started irrigating the farm, we've had to build more bins. We used to have a couple 100,000 bushel storage, now we have 1 million bushel of storage. We haven't changed a lot, other than we have a consistent crop every year. We've got sloughs in our area too. Water is a huge part in our farm. Our farm would be a grain and cattle farm, wasn't for cattle. We were for years. We didn't start watering. Our first pips went up in '97. And we started watering out of the Sonoma River, which is really expensive water time we lifted up. We had to lift it 200 feet. So elevation costs a lot of money pumping water. Today, we ran diesels back then, running 2 pivots with the 2 diesel pumps out of that river. I probably run 30 pivots hydro or electric out of the wells for the same cost. It wasn't like, not even close. We were having to pump 200 PSI and then boost it again, and we had 500 horsepower running 3 pivots.
You say you used to, you don't do it anymore?
Yep. No, we use this infrastructure, we use the pipelines and stuff, and we just place wells around the pipelines. Once there was no wells that would work in our area at the time, we had to come up with a well that worked. We had to go to a large diameter, slow inflation rate, but 200, 250 gallons a minute. And most irrigation wells north of us in the Carberry region, like 50 miles north, they're 8-inch well, 1,000 gallons a minute. But they're in a really deep part of the aquifer. We're only about 70 feet deep where we are. So we have, yeah, each pivot takes probably 5 to 6 wells to run properly. So on the farm, we have 120, 130 wells, depending where we are running. We always try and size them very similar, so we have spare pumps laying around, because every time a lightning storm goes through, we lose a bunch of pumps. And we finally had to buy a crane, because the time you wait on a driller to come change a pump, but our potato crop is basically double with our water, and our quality's improved drastically. We can control a lot more of our quality. We water hard in early season, June, July is the bulk of our watering. We water in August for yield, but June, July are for quality. If sugar ends and Burbanks for us would just be a dry 2 weeks at tuber initiation, you're pretty well guaranteed sugar ends in lots of them. So if we can keep that soil moisture up above 70% or 70%, get rid of that. We just don't see them. Sometimes it's really hot, really dry for a long time, and we have to water continuously until we get caught up. Or we make sure we're ahead of it a bit and have the soil moisture up before that heat hits. Because once it's hot and dry and if the rows aren't closed, you can't keep up. Allocation area, there's no cost for water, it's just your infrastructure costs. Recording of it, yep, but you're allowed 12 inches on a potato crop, and we're allowed 9 inches on a corn crop and 6 inches on a grain crop. So we get an allocation for so many acres. We can use that water on those acres, and that's it. We can't transfer within a year to year. Some spots for this rotation, they'll move the pivot year to year for potatoes. So they'll have a 130-acre license for that pivot, but it can move. In a situation like ours where most of the farms now, we can't shift it back and forth. Grain crops are edible beans, probably makes it not double, but another third of a crop at least. And they're a dry season crop, so. And corn's another crop consistently makes big gains. We will guarantee 50 bushel extra on our pivot. Crops like canola, we don't see a lot of benefit. We see a consistent crop every year. It's a good crop. We can't seem to push it to the next level where it's too hot, I think. And same with cereal stuff. We can make a good crop every year, but we can't make a big change in the yield with the other crops.
Are you moving your pivots to follow your crops, or leaving the pivot and
Our
whatever's
pivots
there?
don't move. They did, for years we've moved pivots around. As we got more license, we just started increasing the amount of fields we had underwater. And the fields we're improving on are the ones that have water. They're getting better over time. All of our sand blowers and stuff, they're actually tilth, there's roots in the ground. Some years there'd be nothing there, it'd just be last year's stuff was down there in the spring. So our cover crops and stuff too, we would have trouble growing anything without water. So yeah, that's part of the problem is they're trying to do regenerative with McCain and they really can't do it without water. You can't get a cover crop going some years without water. Record keeping on the farm, I'm sure you guys are all keenly aware of the record keeping we gotta do. We use Trimble because that's what our processor wants to use. It's a nice app, works good, but everyone's gonna use what you have to use for your systems. It's a nice app for us because it talks really good to the operations center. So stuff moves back and forth freely in it. You have to go and do it, but it actually makes sense when you move. Some of the times we move stuff back and forth, it doesn't make sense. Ever try putting Raven stuff into a system? We can see record keeping is getting more important because we've had one farm in Manitoba had a wreck. The record keeping insurance cost them a lot of money. There were some missteps made and yeah, it's $1 million mistake. Double check your records. Fuel lock, it's a system built in Saskatchewan. It's really simple, it's farmer built. It's cellular, so there's no connections to worry about. For the farm, we have 5 sites and it costs me $30 a month to have it on top of the after installation. It gives every person on the farm a PIN code and they put their own PIN in. After they put their PIN in, it brings up a prompt for the unit number, so they put the unit number and they're fueling up and then lets it fuel up. And I think it's a 50-minute timer on it, so once they put in their PIN, it runs for 15 minutes and shuts off. We bought it for theft mostly, but the other benefits, it's got a great software program with it, and the record keeping is really good. Now we know which unit's doing what. And for us with the grain farm and the potato farm separated, it lets us track our fuel separately. If we're doing fuel trucks going to the field, they can put in a unit number for a truck that's going to the potato field or going to the grain field. Lets us segregate our fuel better for our bookkeeper. But it also lets us tell if one truck is getting horrendous mileage for some reason. And sometimes it doesn't show up when you're driving, but you know, that truck's burning 100 liters more every day. And the rest of them, there's something wrong with it. And yeah, we found plug air filters and stuff like that, but also bad injectors, bad fuel pumps. Also, the truck's getting 2 miles a gallon, everybody else is getting 6. And it's a nice peace of mind on the farm, you know, you can go away at night and not worry about it. We used to have switches in the shop and turn them off every night so the pumps wouldn't work, and yeah, you forget about them half the nights. So. And we have 5 storage yards, so we have fuel at every site because we're not going to run back to the main yard for fuel trucks all the time. Loaders working there. It's nice to have that secure too and not worry about it. And it's nice, it's a simple system. I programmed it, so it's not that bad. I'm sure most of you guys are using VR already, but we VR everything on the farm. All of our fertilizer is very varied across the farm. We built the database over the years with our sampling. And then we're using yield mapping and topography maps to build our own maps. We have some of them third-party built, most of them we build ourselves. We have in-staff, or in-house agronomy on the farm. For the last 7 years, we've had two different ones, but we have an agronomist on staff. And the agronomist is responsible for building maps, making sure sampling gets done, patio testing and scouting in the summer. And then they're also responsible for our food safety and our employee safety, which I like. The VR pays for itself. It almost pays for the agronomist. And if fertilizer saved, it does actually. On this field here, lots of this field's only going to get, I don't know, it's 11 to 28 gallons. There'll be less than that in spots. And that field in the past would have got 20 gallons across the board. Wouldn't have. And that's going on with the planter. It's nice to save it where you can and put it where you need it. It's leveled out our quality across our fields. We're maybe doing VR a little different than other industries are because we're pushing for quality across the farm on a potato crop. We're not looking for the best yield here and there. We want to have a consistent quality across the field. Marketability is pretty important for us. So we don't push probably the better areas harder than we should. We probably could make some more gains doing that, but so far we've been working to try and level the fields out to have the same crop across the field. I know they were talking about some VR planting, and that looks really interesting because we could start pushing parts of the field differently.
What rate control system are you using to variable your phosphorus?
John Deere, the 2000 series, I think. It controls our Quadris Minuet blend, and then it also does the granular, or sorry, the liquid 28, 1034, sorry. It, yeah, it's a twin controller, 2 hydraulic pumps, and now we have it on the back of the tractor. We used to have them on the front of the tractor on 3 points, but we've gone to RXs, so we've got 1,000-gallon tanks integrated. So hopefully that's nice. We'll see. Hopefully they're not too heavy. Seed cutter, same thing with the Greentronics. Put a small scale and small conveyor and tied it into the treater. So yeah, now we're not guessing how much chemical we're putting on. We did for years, and we never guessed very close. The flow rate changes far more than you think it does. The flow of the cutter just, you think you got the even flow set the same all the time, but it does speed up and slow down depending on the potatoes going in and out of it.
Did you have to change the liquid pump on your milestone treater, or is
No, it ties right into it.
tied right into the Greentronics
Yep.
system?
Yeah, it's only a 3-year-old treater, but yeah, it's the same pump as the old treater had. It was no problem tying. It takes a while to calibrate it.
Okay.
Once you get it calibrated, it worked really well. And we do calibrate once a week, regardless on the scale. We do a tare calibration every night on the belt, but we do a full calibration once a week, cutting.
Okay.
And yeah, one guy does it with a skid steer by himself, so it's not a...
It's not a big job.
I think we cut our seed ahead. We start cutting April 1st every year. That's our start time for us, and they'll probably sit in the shed for a month. Hopefully not more than that, but sometimes it is more than that. Our goal, we like dry seed in the planters. Our planters just work a lot better when it's nice and dry and supervised. We'll we can't keep up with the cutter anyways. We have an 80 milestone. It won't keep up to our planters, not a chance. So we have to have a cut ahead. Otherwise we're sitting waiting for the cutter. We'll probably be done cutting a week before we start planting, at least. So that gives us, the last seed is 2 weeks in the bin, so it's supervised nicely. Any questions on the cutter? You guys all cut seed, I presume? We cut for quite a few new growers in that though, because structure, and the seed growers want to cut seed that's come from our province, which I don't blame a seed grower for not wanting to cut seed from somewhere else. For us, we go to a separate yard. We'll take our set down. We'll go to another yard. We're totally separate and isolated. So if there is a problem, we're not bringing it back to our farm. But, you know, new farms are taking 5,000-6,000 bags, it's not worth setting up a unit, so we'll cut for them and we'll try and supervise it for them if we have time. Usually gives them a better feeling on the first year of dry seed.
Chad, you talked at a couple of the other meetings about sizing seed and planting your
Yes.
holes separate and stuff like that.
Yeah, before we're going to the cutter, we're sizing. We're pulling off anything ounce and a half under. 1 ounce goes in a separate pile from the bigger stuff. The 1 ounce stuff gets planted 6 inches apart. The next gets planted like regular seed. We know it's slow to cut her down because we're not using the deck 100% efficient, but we find we get better seed profiles. And we do a lot of planting, we're not planting this stuff with this stuff. Takes an hour to change all the cups in the planter and go plant, and then we go plant that small pile. Once it's gone, then we switch the cups back and we're good for the rest of the season. But we were planting 3 or 4 1 ounce seed piece or a 3 ounce seed piece with a 1 ounce seed piece. It's hard to get rid of those little guys.
Do you treat the whole seed?
No, we don't.
No.
No. We have a strong in-furrow program, so, and I said, beetles haven't been an issue for us. They are Manitoban spots, but for us, they haven't been an issue. And I guess it gives us a refuge on the farm from Titan or.
You're letting them first, right?
Yeah,
We do the opposite planting last.
yeah. We find they're slow to emerge.
They're very slow to emerge,
Yeah,
but they're last out too.
yeah, for sure. I just planted to get them out of the way. They're in my way.
Yeah.
But we'll plant all our whole seed first. Just puts the guys in the planters in a false sense of security. They plant so nice.
That and they can withstand a little colder soil
Yeah, they
because
can.
they don't have a cut surface and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Just another shot of the pile. Seed shed is first in, first out, so. Works, then the oldest seed goes out first, and the only exception to that rule is we'll cut our Umatilla seed last. And Umatilla are very touchy, you guys grow them, but they don't like wet soil, they don't like cold soil. It's gotta be perfect when you plant them. So if we're planting and it's perfect, we'll flip around, grab out of the other end of the shed and plant the Umatillas before if it's gonna come, just in case it does come in a rain or something, if you get them in dry dirt, they just thrive a lot better. Their fusarium takes off them really fast. You put them in wet ground, they just disintegrate. It sounds like it's a variety that's going away eventually, but
How high do you pile your cut seed over there?
6 feet. 6 feet. We're different climate, you guys. We'll run CFM on there, 1 CFM with humidity, but we're probably talking 60% air humidity versus, I don't know what you guys have in the spring, but we've never had to turn humidity off. It seems to heal them faster for us. They skin up nicely. After 2 weeks, you can go in there and grab them, there's no moisture at all. There's no drying agent used. We tried it in the past, we just seemed to make a paste on top of the seed. It seemed to be wetter to start with, and then it was like a hard paste on the outside. And our operators don't like it in the platters.
You have a door at the back there, you do
Yeah.
first in, first out then?
Yeah. Yeah, the seed, and we actually have an elevated pad at that end. So when we load, we have a wheel loader, and we just load right in the trucks. We don't have a pile or anything. Seems to take one handling off them at least. And then in the field, we use our crop cart for filling. The crop cart's got its own loader on it, so that's the main transition for the seed. Things you guys don't have. We have invasive species in our area, and they're getting fairly big. They were released from farms in the past when farming got unproductive and guys let them go. And we border on a park that's about 40,000 acres, and they like low wet ground, and the bark's full of it, they like it out there, they come around our fields. They don't do a lot of crop damage, honestly. They dig around the edge of fields. They're looking for worms, bugs. Every slough is like it's cultivated around the other side. They just dig it right up, but they are hard on the other species. They're pushing everything else out of the area. They survive 30 below all winter like nothing, not a problem for them. They're extremely tough. We've got a trap network set up on our farm through the Wildlife Federation. Last winter we trapped about 100. One like this it's a big boar, he stinks, he's not good to eat, but there's a lot of sows and young ones that are 100, 150 pounds, and they're really good eating actually. So between the Wildlife Federation, we butcher some ourselves, but whatever we don't want, they'll take and distribute. So it gets used at least. We keep, probably every time we catch a bunch, we'll keep 4 or 5, throw them in the freezer, and we'll have a community barbecue once in a while. Or staff barbecue, we like doing that too. Operation center, I don't know whatever record keeping system you're using, but when we started using this stuff, we realized we had recorded this information back years that we didn't know we were recording. We went back, found yield maps, tillage maps, fertilizer maps that we didn't know we made. They were all recorded back there since the machine, or since the operation center started. And there was a lot of knowledge that we didn't know we had. So when we started building maps, it was nice to go back and look and see what's going on and bring that information forward. You can see when we started watering the farm, how it changed. It's nice that it's automatic. Our ground sets it up in the shop in this winter. It's preloaded on the machines. Doesn't matter what machine you're driving, it's still in there. If you're going to that field, that's your operation is going to happen there. Sprayers, VR maps for the planters, everything's sent over online now. You don't have to go to the tractor, put a stick in anymore. He sends a list of fields to the guys in the start of spring, and they can just, when they drive in the field, that field comes up. They click on the field, and their VR map's there. It's programmed. All they have to do is accept it. Anything we can do for our operators to get them to record information without having to make them think too hard is really good. Because generally we're busy, we're going hard, we forget that stuff easily. And even if they don't remember to do it, and the operation happened, in the office on the operation, you can go back and pull that information back in. It's really, it's better if they do it first, but it's still there if you have to go dig it up. And it doesn't matter what color you run, but we run deer. A lot of the reason we run deer is because of this. Once we have all the information, then we have an excellent deal with it. We had a Target floater for years, and same thing, we switched it over to John Deere system, and because we couldn't transfer the information from our floating easily, it was very time consuming. Sometimes we'd transfer it, next time it wouldn't. And that's not really important that year, but for the future, it's nice to go back and look. Same thing, just more VR maps, but they're not that hard to build. Once you know your fields, and generally most of you guys know your fields better than most of the agronomists do. It's to build a map like that on our program, maybe 20 minutes. If you sample properly in the fall, get your, we used to grid sample everything on 1 acre and 2 acre grids. We've gone away from that now. We've got that baseline knowledge, now we just zone sample based on those. If we do bring a new piece of ground in, then we will go grid sample. We do some other mapping, but we understand the way the grid sampling works in our farm, so that's what we continue on with. It's not the cheapest by a long ways, it's an expensive way to do it, but you do it once or twice and you're done. Then you can zone sample after that. There is a lot of great software and programs out there now with new mapping that is probably better and more effective, but
A field like that, are you planting the corners also, or only what gets watered?
just gets watered. The corns we planted too, or something just to, something we can harvest before the pit is. Just, we have a few fields like this that are sowed down to hay in the corners, but we do grow a decent enough crop most years of grain and other stuff to justify some of the corners. So no one likes cutting 7 acre hay fields. So basically in every pivot, we would have 4 7-acre fields, and they're triangles. Square diagram. Same thing this spring, we'll go with the air drill before we start planting, and the drill spends 2 days running around sowing 7-acre fields. And then same thing in spraying season, sprayer will run around, he'll spray a couple days straight trying to get all those little. So generally we'll sow wheat, something we can control millet in. We've tried oats in the past, but not being able to control millet, you get a weed mess in a hurry. Because it's generally not the strongest crop because you're turning on, driving on it. Pivot controls are all remote now. We finally got all our valves hooked up remotely. In the past, we'd have to go turn a valve on or off still, but now we can actually just turn a pivot off and it'll shut the valve, shut the pivot off, and start another pivot up. We've took a lot of years, but we got VFD controllers on all of our well sites. It took a long time to get the controls set up, but once we got it now, we can go start each well site, and then we'll just hold constant pressure on a pipeline. So we'll set it at 60 PSI, we want to hold the pipe. So one VFD will control about 10 wells, and it'll VFD just the one well, and it'll ramp that well up to 100%. Pressure isn't high enough, it'll start another well, until it gets to the pressure, and it'll ramp down the initial well to keep that constant pressure. So if you shut a pivot off, the pressure will climb. We gotta have a pressure release there, just because it sometimes doesn't react fast enough, so you blow a bit of water off, but it'll start shutting down wells to get the pressure back down. Same thing when you open a well, or open a pivot up, the pressure will drop, it'll start turning on the well, so it gets back up to that pressure. It saves a lot of miles. We still drive there all the time, check if we're not 100% trusting yet, but in the past we'd had to drive to all 130 wells, shut them off if it rained. It took a lot of wire, a lot of expense to get all the controls centralized for sections. Instead of having starters each well, you had to bring all the starters into shacks. And yeah, I'm glad we did what we did because it's getting more expensive every year. So. And then you have to have your shack close to one well or the pipeline at least so you can tie in a pressure transducer. We tried wireless ones and they're not reliable enough. We've gone back to, like, controls are cellular. We had terrible service area. We put a new tower up. Once it's service good, it worked excellent, but it still has glitches. Where the wire controls, they work every time. Grass seed from our area, it's been a good crop for us. Spreads out some harvest dates. It's good revenue for us. It's easy on the dirt, builds some organic matter. Takes away some seeding in the spring, because it's seeded the year before. And our air drills, grain drills, they're not very busy at our farm. Actually, we have way more capacity than we need. But we'll go out, I feel like it's sowed to canola or wheat, and it'll get underseeded to grass. So the drills have to seed the field twice the same day. We've tried mixing, blending. Grass doesn't grow from this deep very well. And same with our cover crops, we just try and shallow and water and get them going with water. But the grass has been something integrated on most of the farm if we can. It holds that root mass in the ground, opens up the soil for us, and it gives us a lot of water holding capacity. It takes a ton of water to grow. And it's combine middle of July, but it takes almost as much as potatoes. It soaks your water fast. But it leaves a lot around after we're done. And we wouldn't use a perennial in our cover crops. We use an annual ryegrass on all the covers, but we find the grass roots, they're a pain in harvest, something we've got to deal with. But our storage equipment takes it out quite nicely. It's not a big deal for us to take out. It's just a few more truckloads back to the field, but it creates water savings for us. We can water less with that in the rotation.
So what would be the crop that follows the grass normally?
Probably potatoes.
Potatoes.
Yeah, we zero-tilled the field in the grass stubble last spring. There were a lot of questions, but it worked.
It worked, yeah.
We rounded it in the fall and ripped it with the inline ripper and then planted into it in the spring. It was, yeah, nervous planting it, but it actually worked out pretty well. We did have to water that field right after planting though, before it emerges, because the grass had so dry on top that we were putting the seed dirt in the dry dirt, so we watered the field right after the planters.
Chad, what percentage of your fall rye do you keep in harvest versus what percentage do you burn off and plant something else?
About half.
Half.
It really depends on the market too.
Right.
We have a steady market. We try and grow 1,000 acres of rye every year regardless. We have a constant market for it, so we'll put that rye in the bin for next year and we'll sell this year's. So we have a year's supply for the distiller. There's a couple of bins that are just with rye constantly for that reason. But yeah, every acre of potatoes after harvest, doesn't matter when we harvest, it's seeded to rye. And it's seeded as if we're gonna take it to a crop because we don't know what we're gonna keep and what we're not gonna keep. So a little bit of phosphate goes with it just to get it up and running. Even if we sow into October, we still get a little red stick like this, but it's enough to help the field stay. And then first thing in spring, it's green and covered until we decide what we're doing with it. We've tried winter wheat in the past, we just can't overwinter winter wheat in our area. It's too, the snow blows off and it gets cold for a week, the winter wheat's dead.
Is any of your canola winter canola or is it all spring?
All spring.
All spring.
No, I'm pretty sure we couldn't make it survive. Like I said, we'll be no snow in -30, it doesn't.
Yeah.
We might have snow, we might not.
What do you work your fields with after the potatoes before you seed the rye?
We have an Amazon Catros or a John Deere high-speed disc. Like, we don't go fast with them, we go slow. I like the Amazon packer better on sand. It's got a spiked rubber packer, so it leaves indents in the ground, so we don't have sifting. The Deere is a smooth roller. It's a rubber roller still, but it leaves a smooth finish, and we find that sifts sods. So we'll work with that, and then the drill will follow it. Yeah, as soon as the harvester leaves the field, the drills are in there. And we don't seed a ton of rye, we seed 70 pounds an acre, that's our. We've tried sowing more, we sow for neighbors, they want more, it doesn't make any difference, really. It just costs more money. It doesn't give you a better stand or rye is great for weed suppressant. Our rye fields seldom get sprayed. If we do, it's with a Black Pearl M. Chokes out pretty much everything. It's often going, so in the spring, nothing really catches up to it. And
that there, is that just all the different ones you grow? Or
that's our cover crop, sorry. That's just, basically, our cover crop's whatever's left in the seed shed. It makes spring decisions a lot easier because you don't have to guess how much seed you need, because we'll use it in the fall. Whatever's left in the shed, we'll toss in the drill. It's got a 4-card drill, so just fill all the cards with something different. So a few pounds of each and let it go.
4-card drill, how big is the drill?
Well, it's a 60-foot, 89.
Fits in a lot of fields around here.
Yeah, they're not small. Got different fields though. That's why the 7-acre fields are so fun. The drill that's 100 feet long. You definitely want to get to the field before the planters get there. Our cover crops, we plow down the odd one. Generally, we just let them grow up and die. Winter takes care of it. By spring, there's nothing left there hardly. We're seeing the benefit in our farm is from the roots, not from the top growth. If we go black in that field before winter, then we're giving up what we've tried to gain. We, like I said, blowing dirt's not good.
You turn irrigation on again after.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we'd water that crop and fertilize it. Yeah. Otherwise, we would get. Like our soils are pretty low in everything other than phosphate. So we have to fertilize the row crop no matter what. And that won't get a lot, but it'll probably have 30, 40 pounds of N put on just to get it growing. And it'll go through the pivot. So it's not an extra pass or work for us, it's just a matter when you turn the pivot on, turn the pump on, the fertilizer tank, and water it in. More of the same. Yeah, the only constant we have in our program is grass. Because grass goes in every blend. Just it seems to do well in cool weather. The other crops like sunflowers and beans stuff, when it gets cold, they don't grow very much, but the grass keeps on growing, and it makes that root mass for us. A lot of the other crops have taproot. They're not really doing much other than breaking down. Some years, we had a couple of years of extremely dry in the area. Cattle guys had no feed, so we planted our cover crops. They came in, and this was actually in October. He came in, mowed it, baled it up with silage. You'd never be able to dry this hay. It's green, but he made good silage with it. So when we do that, we really don't see much difference as if we were leaving that. Other than there's less stuff to deal with in the spring, but it grows back. The grass will take off at that point, and it'll look like a lawn almost. And as soon as the grass handles that -5, -6 weather for quite a while before it'll die off. But if you use an annual grass, it will die. We've learned not to sow outside our pivots, because if we sow a cover crop and it doesn't rain, we plant it next year's weeds. And it's a real nice thick crop of them. Because if we can go, some years we'll have a lot of rain harvest. Very seldom we have rain at harvest. We'll run middle of August till freeze up with very little moisture. So if you don't get enough moisture in there to germinate that crop, it's just basically next year's problem. So yeah, now we go to the last pipe on the pivot. We don't sow the end gun anymore because the wind's blowing the wrong way that day and you're not getting wet out there. That weed bank is still there. If we do till in, I can plow in, but we would sow another crop in there right away. This field worked out. It was a different one. We had a nice crop of corn coming and got hailed out 100%. So we went and sowed a cover on it. It was too late to sow another crop, plowed in and then sowed another cover. It's not our general practice. Cash crops are still important on our farm. We very seldom take a whole year of production off. We'll try and take some kind of cash crop off that farm before we put a cover in. This was an exception because it was too late when it got hailed out. It's amazing, you plow that in and come back a week later and it's black. Just eats it up, especially when it's hot and wet. Yeah, we would run the drill through it right away, watered it again right away and fertilized again. And it would,
Is that rye that you're working on?
that's rye and barley and grass. I think there was canola in there too. But you can see what it's doing.
When you spray it, like kills Roundup or anything, or just
No,
work
just
like
work
that?
it. We set those discs deep and go slow. Don't pulverize if we can. You can go fast, but it just seems to tear everything up and make the dirt particles so small. Yeah, that's. We've got our big discs too, the big heavy discs, but they leave ridges and it's a little tough to work with. But there's conditions where these discs won't do it either. We've tried biofumigant mustard. We haven't seen results from it. We've tried a few times now, 4 or 5 times now, and we've never seen a result from the biofumigant on our farm. We've also tried fumigant trials, and we've seen no result from fumigant trials either. So,
What are you targeting with
verticillium.
verticillium?
Yeah. Basically for Burbanks. Like this field, I would probably stay to Rangers just because we could get early die in it. But we tried this, we still get early die.
Yeah.
We dig everything green, so we have verticillium levels that are pretty high.
Right.
all of our crop is dug green. And,
We'd only be storing Burbanks though, right?
no, we store everything.
Right.
Yeah, we store Burbanks, Umatilla, Ranger, Dakota. Clearwater up till this year. It's the last year for us for Clearwater. Umatillas, we like storing them because that's our seed storages, so they get hauled out sooner, but they're still not hauled out, so. But, yeah, the factories in our area, they like some of the other varieties up front for pre-Christmas. We have trouble keeping good color on Burbanks that early. So they use the other varieties up till then. Generally, the only bins we gas would be Burbanks. It's a farm, we spread our crop around. We have 10,000 acres of grain and we have 2 combines, but we combine from July to October. Our crop rotation usually has 10 crops in it. To spread harvest out and to spread risk out. Just better profile for our soils in the future, we hope. We'll try and split rotations if we're going potatoes, rye, beans. The next rotation won't have beans and it'll have corn in it or have canola instead. So if there's a crop that's going to be degraded in the soil, it's spread out. It's not all tied together. If there is some producer area, we'll go potatoes, beans, corn, potatoes, beans, corn. It's catching up to them. You can only, a bean crop is just as invasive, probably blows more in the potato field. Generally, we can't get them harvested as quick as potatoes, so they're tougher to get a cover crop on. And the ground is just powder after you're done. Because you're usually using a knife or a rod beer, so it's not. That's my last slide. If you got any questions?
Is that flax in the picture?
That is flax, yes.
Do you have a market for that stuff?
There is a market for it. I wouldn't advise growing it though.
No,
It's a cyclical market. It can be worth 10 bucks a bushel, it can be worth 50 bucks a bushel. You definitely want to put it in, but it is not fun to grow.
it's tough. It's tough.
It's very tough. It's like wire.
Yeah.
There's a lot of combines lost to flax. They burn or they tear up. We were dropping straw, and it got tied into our chopper. I don't know how it got in there, but it got $7,000 later. The chopper's fixed. It just destroys. It's like wire. There used to be a good market for the straw, which was good because it was a value added to that product. It was made in paper, but the processing facility is closed. So we used to make tobacco and tissues. If they could find another use for it, it's a tremendous product, but the acreage has just kept dropping because guys are frustrated with it. You have to grow it and then store it until the price goes back up, basically. Because a good crop of flax is 35 bushels, so if you get $10, it's not worth growing. If it's $50, it's worth growing.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
So those 10 crops you mentioned here, is that, are most of them, are they saleable crops or?
Yep,
is a lot of
they're
them-
saleable.
Okay. That doesn't include your.
Oh, that's not cover crops, that is cash crops.
Yeah.
So you got sunflowers, corn, soybeans. We grow pedigreed soybeans. We grow 4 or 5 types of edible beans. Your barley, oats, wheat, canola, grass seed.
Grass seed, yeah.
We have a bit of hay, but that's to cover off fields with poor soils around the outside where the fields don't go.
You direct cut all your edibles? You direct cut?
No, we gotta cut them all.
Do you?
Yes.
Whoa, okay, so
Yeah, we have a separate line, separate crew for beans.
that's why they blow so bad, then, right?
Yeah, they're all large beans, so we have to do them with a bean combine.
Like crayons and
Yeah.
kidneys and stuff.
And lots of them have special requirements, lots of herbicide restrictions,
Yeah.
record keeping just like our potatoes.
So you don't get a cover crop after that?
Very seldom. We get the odd one, so. We're usually finishing up beans after we're done potatoes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they push into October for us,
Make some money on
yes. That's why we grow.
it.
So Chad, if I'm a producer and I'm looking at especially what you've got there in terms of the VR and the precision ag and stuff, and I'm kind of starting from scratch, or maybe not necessarily from scratch, but starting from a uncertain place, like, can you tell us a little bit about like how that evolved for you and like how you guys made it work for yourselves?
Oh, we started off with third-party agronomy, building the stuff for us. You need to have something to work off of to start with, so you have to sample or map or something to start with, and you're gonna have to have the equipment to do it, or you have to hire the equipment to do it. For us, it started with hired equipment, hired floaters. As we got more reliant and time sensitive ourselves, we started having machinery ourselves and doing it ourselves. Pretty much any air drill today will do it if you want a band fertilizer. They're pretty well all capable of it now. Any of the floaters or sprayers out there are definitely capable of it, sprayers for sure. On our grain farm, we started with our sprayers. We were top dressing with 2800 stabilized. So we built all our maps for the sprayers because it was a system we trusted and we knew we could get the proper rates on. We tried with our drills and stuff to start with, and the systems weren't good enough to start with. The lag times and the application just wasn't accurate enough. We were ended up putting lots of fertilizer we didn't need it. And once the new drills have come out with hydraulic drives and stuff, it's definitely working better versus manual transmissions that we're trying to change. But we found going with sprayers first, third party for sure, until you know what you're doing. There's lots of people wanting to do that for you. They don't mind charging, but there's nothing wrong with that if it's good information and saving money. We kept looking at it as we started into it. Every time we did it, our savings on the other side and the improvement in our crop were well above the cost of doing it. Most of our applicators in our area charged a premium to start with, and now there's no premium to put a VR product on. Because it's simple now. It's bringing a map. If you have the map made for them, they load the map and they go spray it. They know exactly how many tons of product they need to bring to the field.
Yesterday too, Chad, you mentioned for all your pre-applied nitrogen, for all your starter nitrogen and stuff, you're using all stabilized or enhanced efficiency
with
nitrogen.
our soil type, we use 100% stabilized nitrogen.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing that?
For probably 10 years. We used to think it was expensive until nitrogen price went up, then the stabilizer was cheap compared to what we would lose. For us, fall applied nitrogen in the past, we've done it in the past and tracked it. We were just about 30% loss from spring to fall. So if you're putting down 30% extra to try and make up for that, it makes sense to stabilize it. We still doing these fall application, we do all spring application nitrogen. It's part of our environmental license on our farm for irrigation project. And it's probably a good thing, it saves us product.
Say that again. Say that again. What were you referring to there?
Oh, we have an environmental license on our farm for irrigation projects.
Okay.
So as part of our license, we're a spring applied nitrogen source.
Okay.
We have certain fields we can put on in fall, but basically most of the farm is spring applied only, or in season.
There'd be very little, if any, fall applied nitrogen here. The only fall applied nitrogen here is manure.
Yeah, the only we would put on, if we were doing it, was for winter crop that needs a little bit of a boost.
Right.
Like a rye crop or a grass crop that we thought was suffering. But it would just be enough to get to the winter knot.
Right.
We do a lot of small applications of nitrogen on the farm. Our nitrogen up front is probably 55 to 60% from the potato crop, and then the rest goes on through season. We go on weekly or bi-weekly through the pivots.
How much are you applying at each, with each pivot application?
We're probably 2800 and probably 5 to 8 gallons, so 10,
Yeah.
12, 15 pounds to 25 pounds, depending on the patio testing. Our agronomists, we patio test weekly, every field, and we soil sample every second week. We used to just patio test, we thought that was adequate, but sometimes we'd find crops that were low in petios. We could take a soil sample and the field wasn't low, the crop was just sick for some other reason. So it wasn't using nitrogen. So we were going back out there, hammering more nitrogen on it and making it sicker. Or delaying emergence or delaying harvest. So the soil sample every second week definitely is a good thing for us because we're applying for another month and a half.
What kind of stabilizer are you using?
We either use ESN or Super U or else Agrotane. Depends on what's cost effective in the marketplace. ESN, Super U, I prefer Super U. I think we have better release rates. ESN handling is very critical. If you bang it up much, you're basically putting 46 on.
Mm-hmm.
When you say you soil sample every 2 weeks, you mean like?
In the field, yeah.
They're all-
Yeah, wherever we take our petios, in our potato fields, we pull soil samples same spot.
Just for nitrates, right?
Yeah, just for nitrate.
How long have you been doing
You
that?
know soil, yeah?
5 years.
How long have you been doing that?
Over 5 years.
And how long do you have to wait for the results for that?
We used a local lab in North Dakota, so about a day and a half.
A day and a half for the soils?
Yep.
And is it a full testing?
No, just nitrogen.
Just nitrogen?
Just nitrogen.
In just your potato field?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We do the odd corn field
Not
because
good.
it's another field we're fertigating.
Okay.
Only fields we're putting fertilizer on. We have a yield 360 nitrogen meter. It's pretty good in soils, and we try and use it for petioles too, but the correlation numbers aren't always accurate. On soils, it's very good, and it's instant. You can do it in the field.
Have you played around with the Paqueta system at all?
No,
In New Brunswick?
I haven't.
No, I know
We're good.
they're kind of interesting. I haven't worked with it myself, but I know some people that have. In terms of looking at it for doing kind of real time petiole
Right.
testing, you know.
Precision Planting has a full analysis coming out too in field. I don't know if they've got it going yet or not, but it doesn't do nitrates, so it's the one we need.
Right.
But the Yield 360 does do nitrates very well. It's all programmed for corn. You have to, but once you have your programs made up, you can use it for, if you're worried about a field and you think something's wrong, you can test it. Still send your lab work away and get back to make sure, but sometimes you'll correct the field before the lab work gets back.
And when you were moving from third-party agronomists to yourself and making the variabilities, how easy was it to transfer the data that they had built up over the years to your
Not that bad, because we paid for the videos, we had it all.
So they sent everything?
Yeah, it was all our data. And we still use some third-party stuff.
Okay.
Because we don't go to all school and keep up on everything, the same as they do, so we still use them on the farm. We pay a retainer to a couple different ones just to have information to flow back and forth. And if we have a field we're concerned about and we're not sure, we'll get them in to look at that field and help us with it.
With your limited tillage and your potato planting, how do you guys deal with that during harvest? Is there stuff you can modify over the years?
No, there's really
The
nothing
yield,
different than
or is
harvest.
just kinda,
Because of water and fertilizing, most of that trash is long gone.
yeah.
It's gone by harvest. So the only thing we deal with is grass balls, root balls. And sometimes corn roots.
Do variable rate seeding for your other row, like your?
Our row crops we do, yes.
What, and you have not done that for
We have it for
potatoes?
potatoes,
Why-
but I see that maybe we should.
Why have you not done it?
Potatoes,
Yes,
I guess we thought we were complicated enough already.
okay,
Right.
fair enough. Fair enough.
There is technology out there that's working, so we should look at it.
Does all your flax look like that?
Yeah.
Irrigated?
No, that's a dry land field.
That's a really good field of flax.
Yeah, no, we can grow a nice flax.
Why is it like that? Why is it like that?
I think because we have good phosphate levels.
Okay.
The flax has trouble getting phosphate. We've always been told there's no sense of fertilizing flax with phosphate the year you plant it. You have to fertilize a year before for flax.
Soybeans do.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious, so that's an incredible field of flax, so that says something about you and your operation.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so that would be a zero-tilled field into,
Right. Wish we could go grow flax like that.
Burn up
We-
some combines.
we're over-equipped on our farm, honestly. we have a disc drill for the till, and we also have a shank drill for disc drill, or for seeding, because sometimes conditions don't fit one drill or the other, and we don't make a good job with one drill sometimes. And we found it was better to have the extra equipment and make a good job on everything than make a half job on some crops.
So just to be clear, you have a cash crop in each acre every year, and you use cover crops to keep the soil covered in the shoulder season?
Yeah, and some of our cash crops are early crops. The grass seed and the fall rye are often, sorry.
But then you come right back in?
Come right back over the cover up.
Gotcha.
And, do you do any fertigation?
Yes. All the stuff is irrigated. 40% to 45% of the fertilizer goes on pivot on the nitrogen side, and some of the sulfur goes on that way, and most of the corn is irrigated. Because same thing, corn, we use stabilized N, but we still need late season nitrogen with corn, and we have trouble keeping it around that long. So we're better off to split ply. And we've tried split ply with the sprayer, and we've tried it with the floaters too, but we burn the corn.